What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down what's happening to the overall market right now, how it's affecting NIO, what just happened with earnings, and why this actually led to a lot of concerns for investors as NIO is actually reporting a bigger loss than expected. Now, before I break anything down about the numbers, before I talk about why NIO did take a bit of a hit and why I did warn you guys about this as a big possibility, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NEO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks plus free level 2 data. And the best part is any of those 7 free stocks could be a free NEO share. If you put in $1,000, you're guaranteed a total of 17 free stocks. Once again, it's an awesome offer. It ends in just 4 weeks. Make sure you check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. At the time of recording this, we're actually just a couple of minutes before the market closes. NIO is down over 5.6% at the time of recording this. And once again, it didn't actually do what we expected it to do or what we wanted it to do. I was hoping that NIO would get a nice bounce here since it was starting to base. It wanted to go and maybe get this gap fill up here. But then I warned you guys, I didn't promise anything. I told you that if earnings were not good, NIO could break below this very key demand zone and it could actually break to 8.75. And if 8.75 didn't hold us, I'd be watching this 8.5 to 8.3 zone right about here. This is where NIO has some support, but overall it's likely going to continue to drop into the mid 8s very soon. So I know that's unfortunate. The more bearish outcome did play out. I was hoping NIO would get a balance and fill this gap here. I was really hoping for that, but I did mention to you guys that the market was showing some weakness, and on top of that, if NIO did not do as well during earnings, if guidance wasn't as good, once again, we would probably see NIO slump down, and that's mostly what ended up happening. So let's actually break that down in just a couple of minutes. To start us off, NIO has actually pretty high volume. And this is important because you're dropping on high volume, meaning that there's a lot of selling pressure right now. There's a lot of selling going on. We actually saw an increase in the short volume percentage, lots of shorting, lots of selling. NIO did report that their quarterly total revenue was about over $2 billion, and their vehicle deliveries were about 40,000 for the quarter of Q4, and their revenue reached over 7 billion in total. So that's just like for the entire total revenue. And then on top of that, we have deliveries at about 122,486. That's actually for the full year. So overall, pretty nice stuff from NIO. I do think they got a pretty good number to break the 40,000 mark, but there were some concerning things that did come out. To start us off, we had some numbers right over here. Once again, 40,000 deliveries for the fourth quarter, 20,800 premium smart vehicle SUVs. So half of them were actually SUVs. The other one half, like almost half, were actually sedans. That's actually an increase of 60% from the last quarter. And then we also saw other deliveries as well. Once again, we had a very strong Q4, our strongest ever. But one of the things people are concerned about was the margin of 6.8% compared to 20.9% in the fourth quarter of 2021. So their margins got thinner. And on top of that, they actually did see some sales increase, but there was a concern about the future from there. Overall, the revenue was pretty decent. I actually like the fact that the revenue was nice. They saw some nice growth there. But when it comes to their overall profits, it wasn't necessarily, it was actually a bit of a decrease. That's about a decrease of 64% from the third quarter of 2022. So there was a decrease there. It actually wasn't that great. I was mistaken in the beginning. Not too great to see their profit come down. We also saw, once again, their gross margin 3.9%. So once again, we're on tighter margins. The losses actually went up a bit. The loss from operations was an increase of 175.5% from the fourth quarter of 2021 and an increase of 74% from the third quarter. So the losses were not good in Q4. Once again, it's becoming a lot more expensive for them. And on top of that, right now they did have to cut prices just a little bit, not really helping them. And we're actually seeing some more losses higher than expected with all these big difficulties. And on top of that, the net loss is also up 259% from the previous year. That is not good stuff. And there are other things about margins and etc. Once again, not the best of news. However, I am very faithful in NIO. I know NIO will grow from this. They're just going through a very hard time right now. The CEO, William Lee Bin, mentioned that NIO delivered 40,000 vehicles in the fourth quarter. That's a 60% growth year over year. That's a record breaking quarterly delivery. But he also mentioned the fact that there's lots of growth going on, but there are some obstacles in their way, and they still have to keep pushing forward despite them. We also saw decent amounts of sales. We have more margin and other pieces of data from there. This is making all the headlines. The fact that NIO did get a bigger than expected loss. Right here, the margin right here, they're actually talking about the same stuff. Once again, not the margins we wanted. We're also seeing deliveries continuing to grow, but once again, so do its losses. So once again, things are becoming very difficult for them. This also happened because of the virus. And they also mentioned that rather than the previous guidance of 43 to 48,000, NIO said it was expecting 38 to 39,000. So they did adjust it a little bit. And they didn't say too much about the future amount of deliveries, but they do believe they're going to see some more consistent growth. They did mention, though, that there are, once again, some obstacles in the way. And right now, the numbers came out that NIO has about 375 NIO houses, NIO spaces in 141 cities. They installed 1,331 Power Swap stations for its network, and the mass production of the Power Swap 3 station is expected to start in April. So once again, we have new products all over the world. In Europe, they're still growing for the most part super well. It's just that their margins are just getting tighter. The losses are just continuing for the company. Once again, that led to a big sell-off in the share price. So what does this tell me about the future? Well, Neil also told us that yes, there are losses. Yes, it was difficult, but they did assure us that they will get through this as time goes on. Now, even no matter what Neil ended up doing on top of that, if they have this many losses, they're going to have to work harder to actually prevail through this. Now, there is definitely a shift in demand in China, and we're actually seeing things becoming a lot more expensive for them to actually produce the cars. And with all of that going on, once again, I mean, the headlines are just screaming right now, and that is leading to lots of FUD right now. Now, the overall market is basically downtrending. That's also going to contribute to NIO coming down a bit, but we could be forming a temporary bottom soon since we are forming, another bullish divergence on SPY. It does look like we're forming it. I do think that the market might actually continue to drop for another day or two before getting a bounce, or it could even bounce as soon as tomorrow. But the market is due for a small bounce. I do think this can help NIO just a little bit, but overall, the downtrend is looking stronger and stronger for NIO. And on top of that, we got news we did not necessarily like. On the triple Q, we did almost exactly what I predicted. That's coming all the way down to the low 290s. And we could try to bounce around here. It might actually try to get a bounce first before it continues. But very soon, I am seeing a small bounce in the markets, maybe starting next week or very soon. And I want to just note that for everyone. Now, when it comes to NIO, one of the things I want to note is the fact that when NIO does not have strong earnings, we do tend to see a trend develop where it does start to downtrend faster and faster. On the 4-hour time frame, there was this nice downtrend that was being respected. NIO did try to bounce off 10. It failed at 10, then got to 9. It was trying to hold 9. It wanted to bounce. It actually wanted to. We saw lots of buyers coming in. It was getting ready to fill this gap, and then we got hit with not the best of earnings. And we can see the MACD on the 4-hour time frame actually opened up a little bit more. So the momentum is now in favor of the bears. What I'm seeing for tomorrow is NIO is probably going to try to stay between 8.75 and about 9. But if NIO gets dragged down more with the market, we're likely going to see this thing hit 8.5 to 8.3 very soon. It's going to be a little harder for it to get that low because the lower it goes, the stronger support is. But at the end of the day, the technicals are suggesting we have more of a downtrend that's going to be respected. And if we break below 8.75, we're likely going to come all the way down there to the 8.5 zone. And that's most likely going to happen very soon. If we do bounce, make sure you watch 9 Around the 9 range, that's going to be the first resistance zone. Then we have around 9.4-ish. Then we have about 10. So those are the resistance levels. Don't forget those resistance levels in case there's a bounce. But the odds are favoring she's going to just stay in this range for a bit between 8.75 and 9. And if she fails to hold 8.75, 8.77, whatever, around that area, 8.5 is most likely going to come. All right. Now, I know this is concerning. I know a lot of people are frustrated. They're angry. Completely understandable. I can understand exactly where you're coming from. But just know that this is very difficult. The time we're in is very difficult for investors, for companies around the world. And the best thing to do is just be as patient as possible and do not let your emotions get the best of you. All right. NIO has a bright future. I'm very bullish for the company long term. I'm seeing this as an opportunity to buy the dips because as we accumulate more shares, we'll have more opportunity and more potential for bigger returns as time goes on. Non financial advice, by the way. So thank you all so much for listening. I am sorry. I know this is not the news you wanted to hear, but it's best to not let our emotions get the best of us and remain rational investors despite it. Thank you. NIO to the moon, because the long term future is still incredibly bright. I've not given up on the company. I'm still very bullish long term. And peace out.